Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for all things Rocket League and RLCS eSports. I'm your host, Wavepunk, and I've got a findable carpet and a James Bot. Guys, the regular season is over. It's done. We have the playoffs next week. It's going to be exciting. How are you guys feeling?
Well, I mean, NA EU Regional Championships around the corner, and then, you know, with the announcing that those 2 bids per region up for Season 4 League play are also on the table, the teams are really going to give it their all this weekend.
So I'm really not going to lie, getting that week break to just like kind of prep myself for next week, because it means so much for so many teams. I mean, you know, we've gotten to meet a lot of these players in person at LAN, and to know the pressure they're under is like, I'm scared for them a lot of the time. And then when you watch somebody just not make it out, like I feel so much emotion for the teams that both make it and don't make it. So it's going to be a really stressful week for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally resonate with that. That I feel like I always empathize more with the team that doesn't make it than celebrate with the team that wins. But and at the end of the day, you got to celebrate the winners. It's going to be so much fun to be able to have those playoffs and then have the Worlds right after it. But with the regular season, we're not quite done talking about it here, as we introduced that there was going to be player accolades given out at the end of the regular season. The regular season's over, so we're ready to do that. We have our Golden Striker Award for NA here, and the winner is Fireburner.
Bum-ba-dum.
Bum-ba-dum. There it is. That is the Golden Striker Award, awarded to the clinical finisher who scored the most goals per game in league play for their region. $500 award here. Going to be going to Fireburner. The close runner-ups were Matt and Jacob, but it was Fireburner with that .92 goals per game.
Absolutely no surprise. Fireburner has been the lead scorer every single season in North America, but Matt and Jacob both close on his heels.
And just to emphasize, we are doing goals per game because every team might play different amounts of games, and it would be unfair to just go by the raw total amount. But as we know, Fireburner, one of the most consistent strikers. We talked about it in Season 1, especially leading into Season 2.
Yeah, Fireburner has just been so good every single season of finding the back of the net. He has excellent shooting percentage as well, so he is just 100% surgical. But Matt was another one of those players that was also quite good, but narrowly missing out on that one. But though Jacob, I thought, was a big key to Fireburner's success, and we'll see on that later about how many assists he had, but Fireburner just so good yet again this season.
Yeah, we talked about how Jacob was really lighting up and doing a lot of scoring, where last season it was Fireburner doing all the finishing. You saw Jacob was there in 3rd place, but it was Fireburner for you. No big surprise here. Cookser97, the god himself, the MVP of Season 2.
He's really never let us down. Never. And again, with Greasy and Marky Duda at his side, it really helps as well. He's always been the cement of his team. He always is the guy that whenever something presents itself, maybe Marky Duda did something really weird or him and Greasy worked well together, Cooksier will be there to finalize the shot. In the last week, we saw a lot of inconsistency, but it just goes to show he did that well earlier in the season that he still came out in first.
Yeah, normally Cooks, he really shines in the live event atmosphere. In the World Championships, he plays quite well. Normally in league play, Marky Duda is the one scoring all these goals, but Cookser this season, he really stepped up during league play and helped Flipside secure at least the top 6 bid. They narrowly missed out on the top 2, but still, Cookser, a scoring machine this season. And really, if you were watching last week the last week of league play, the one goal that he had in the final seconds of the game is what clinched it for him. Otherwise, K-Dub would have won.
But then in the Oceania region, a thing that we don't get to talk about as much around here because we cover so much of the European and the North American scenes, but Drip A leading here by a substantial margin at 1 point to the only guy we've seen so far that actually scored more than 1 goal a game, as Oceania was a very high-scoring region, as you can see here, and we'll see some more about Drip A later.
Yeah, you said it. Every single one of these players finishing 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they all had over a goal a game average. OC just likes to score.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things too that could be attributed to that. It could either be they just don't play as much defense. Maybe they just like the high-scoring games. If both teams just go all out, you might as well just try and outperform. Or maybe there's a pretty stern gap between those top 3 teams and then the teams that are right following suit. If there's a big gap, then yeah, you're probably going to get your stats a bit beefed up, but that doesn't take away from the skill in those top teams to be able to score that much. I mean, 1.2, that's a significant.
Drip A went. He just carried his team.
It's insane.
Certainly did. But that does it for the Golden Striker Award here. Moving on to the Clutch Playmaker, the player who gets the most assists per game. That $500 award, as you can see there. Quick description of how the award works. In North America, again, we saw his name once already, but this time Jacob is going to be in the first place spot. And it only makes sense that the top goal scorer and the top assists per game would be on the same team.
Yeah, I predicted Fireburner to be the MVP, but Jacob was just stellar this year. You see here 0.92 assists per game and also finishing third in goals per game. He just was a huge key to the NRG success, making some absolutely insane goals and passes all season long.
And who's the real hero? Did Jacob get the highest assists per game because Fireburner kept scoring? Or did Fireburner get the most goals per game because Jacob kept passing it to him? Who's the real hero? You know, the belt or the pants?
Dapper said it in his interview. People do not like playing against Jacob because his play style is so unpredictable. He's so good. So Jacob, he deserves it.
Yeah, and over here in Europe, it's going to be Mystic from Mocket eSports, who takes the #1 spot. Interesting stat here, both in #1 and #1 in North America were both about 0.2 above the second place spot. It was 0.92 for Jacob, and it was like 0.7 for the second place of J-Naps. Interesting here that both of these guys just kind of outdistanced their opponents so significantly here on the assist game.
Yeah, and then Mystic obviously on Mocket. Mocket didn't clinch one of the top 2 spots in Europe, but Mystic really did a good job keeping Mocket in it, along with K-Dop, who played very well this season. But Mystic, he wasn't afraid to score as well, but surprising to see him also come through on the assist game.
I mean, to see that big of a gap between them and second place, what is that for? Does that mean that they really just like to play as a team that much more than everybody, or are they just better at executing it? Because a lot of play we saw throughout this entire season was team play, but maybe these two teams are just that much farther ahead.
And then Oceania as well here. Express coming in again. The only stat we've seen so far that have been over a goal or a save or assist per game so far has been the OCE stats here, as Express comes in at 1.08.
Yeah, Alpha Sydney, they are a scary team in OCE. Express, Drippe coming in at #3 as well as getting that league goal scorer. But Express, you got to give it to him. 1.08 assists per game. Again, Oceania outpacing NA or EU in goals and assists.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have that Express Drippe pair again, kind of like the way we saw Jacob and Fireburner over on NRG, just both of the top stats here for goals and for assists. So interesting to see these guys, once they make it, assuming they make it all the way to Worlds and get to play against NRG, these two high-flying offenses. I'm excited to see how it's going to pan out and whether they'll be able to take that one there from NRG. But saves per game, the next one on the board here. As we've been doing it with both goals and with assists, this is going to be per game. And it'll be a $500 prize pool as well, awarded to the player who racks up the highest saves per game in league play for their region. And starting things off in North America, Set to Destroy had a very rough season here, but holy cow, did Memory keep things out of his goal. Look at that, 2.89. That's almost 3 saves. He almost gets a savior medal per game.
Yeah, and right there you see Rizzo at 1.89, a full save ahead. Memory, a full save per game ahead. They only played 19 games because they got swept quite a bit, but Memory, he did a good job blocking shots, but as we'll see, save is not really indicative of team success over the season.
We did see plenty of, like we talked about it, Set to Destroy was so close in so many other series to actually making it all the way and getting a win here and there, but their defense was on point. It was always their offense that was struggling. Memory, a huge part of that defensive wall.
And I mean, when you really think about it, they played that little amount of games in comparison because they got swept quite a bit, and he still destroyed everybody in saves. You know, and as much as we can probably say, hey, if you're making that many saves, you're doing something wrong, but there's still a sort of skill and a really, to be able to read that many shots and to still be there for your team that often. Memory still deserves it to be there for his team as much as he was, but sadly it was really just their lack of offense. They weren't able to bring it from defense to offense. Their defense seemed pretty good, though.
For sure. Yeah, moving on to Europe, we have Freaky on the top of the leaderboards here for saves per game, followed closely by Violent Panda, or excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one, K-Dop and Zenzis there. Going to be rounding out the top, and again, 2.3, breaking that #1. It's been hard to break into the whole digits here, but now 2 guys in a row with double-digit saves per game.
Yeah, K-Dop finishing pretty high up as well for Mocket, but Freaky on Penta, another team where players winning this, but their team fell short in the overall season. But still, Freaky, he put up some good stats, and saves was one of them, and that's what got him this savior of the season.
I think everybody this season, every team had their moment. Every team was able to show us where it was, whether it was really early in the season, or even some in the qualifiers. You're looking at some upsets in the qualifiers and then struggling in league play. And you don't want to take away from anyone's skill, which is why it's really cool that we're able to recognize players. They were really good in certain categories, and they may have just had a hard time gathering up with their team to still succeed at the goals.
Yeah, and really Penta missed out in the finals, in the final game of the season with Flipside. If had Flipside won, they would have been in.
Yeah, but then over here in Oceania, Outlast was going to be on the top of our leaderboards for the saves per game here. He's a player from Scylla eSports, and one of the most interesting things about this stat, we've been talking all season long about how saves is not a good indicator of a team that is actually playing well. It means that you're allowing the other team to have offensive pressure. All the players who won saves per game in their region are on teams that did not make it into the playoffs and are actually out of league play already for the season. And it's, I think you started to touch on this earlier, that like saves per game, it's you're buying your teams a time and a chance to mess up on offense. That we can have a lackluster offense because our defense is gonna like buy us out of situations and give us more opportunities. But you have to be able to capitalize on offense, because even here you're seeing these monster saving machines and their team's not qualifying.
Yeah, even with in North America, the stat sticks out to me. The only two teams in the league that had positive save differential, which means they had more saves than their opponent, was Set to Destroy and Genesis. And Set to Destroy was at plus 54. Plus 54
That's
differential.
actually insane.
Yeah, Genesis had plus 26, but everyone else was negative. So that just goes to show you, again, just reinforcing the point that getting saves, it's good that you're saving the ball, but you don't want to be forced to make a lot.
Yeah. And just in general, like talking about the stats, there were so much more goals scored in OCE and a lot less saves.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, there were so many more shots and goals happening, but where are the saves? How did both North America and Europe beat you in saves, but not in goals? What's happening?
We'll have to get Cheeseman to explain.
Different meta, man. We'll get to see how that works. But what we've all been waiting for here, MVP of each region for the regular season. We've been waiting for this all season long. We had a panel of administrators and of analysts who all got to kind of put in nominees and vote on them. We have our results here for North America from NRG. No surprise to anybody, Jacob, the scoring machine, the monster player here. It is Jacob who gets the North American MVP.
Yeah, we saw it in the stat line. He finished third in goals and #1 in assists, and it's no surprise with the success that NRG had this season and the stats that Jacob put up, that he is the MVP for North America. It is well deserved.
It's so easy to look at the guy that has his name across the screen when he makes that goal. It's so easy to just see that over and over and over again and give him all the attribution. But when you look at how Jacob plays, all of his unique approaches to any shot he makes, this is a prime example. No one would have ever been able to pull it off in league play. He gets the angles nobody can. He gets the passes nobody can. Jacob truly deserves MVP this season.
Yeah, 6-1. NRG finished on the season 6-1, and a huge part of that goes to this player, Jacob Cobb, on the job, rocking that foam hat, and really just impressing me. He's one of the players that I think had the biggest improvement from season 2 to season 3. I never expected this from Jacob. I always knew he was a good player, but this season he really showed that he was above and beyond almost literally every other player in NA getting this MVP award. Jacob rocking it and really well deserved.
I felt like in both seasons 1 and 2, people would talk about the Kings of Urban and then NRG once they got picked up, and I felt like I didn't see anything exemplary about their playstyle. I'm like, yeah, they managed to win. I don't know how though, because I didn't like see their playstyle. Wholly different team here as we watched Jacob play, and everyone we've talked about says they're scared of playing Jacob. And they don't know what to do against this guy. Definitely carried his team again to a #1 seed. If they can do it 3 years in a row, that's going to be crazy. Absolutely deserving it there. But as we move over to Europe, a little bit more widespread in our voting. It was difficult to pin down who won, because everyone had different ideas on who won, but it was K-Dop who comes out in the lead there from Mocket. As again, it was the player that does the most for your team individually, and here we saw K-Dop just putting Mocket on his shoulders and carrying them to where they are.
Although Mocket didn't have the most wild success out of any of the EU teams, when you look at the player that really contributed to the most of their team's success, you can't really argue against this pick. K-Dop had some weeks where he was the difference maker for Mocket, just putting in goal after goal, racking in the saves, really doing whatever he had to do to get Mocket that W.
He had 30 goals this season with 70 saves all around the pitch from front to back. And when you're thinking about who is the most valuable player on the team, what player do we feel like if it wasn't for him, their team might have struggled? And honestly, I want to say it's K-Dop. I mean, we're agreeing on it right now. Yep. And he was somebody that I had voted for. And it's just one of those situations of, I think he's the one that really kept Moffitt alive and kept them in the runnings, because they didn't have the season that we expected. Gibbs really beefed him up early on, and I expected them as a whole to just show up. Yeah. But really, I felt K-Dop was the one that helped his team to ensure that they were able to pull that off.
And he only lost out by a single goal to be the golden striker for Europe. He was literally that 0-second goal, the final goal scored of the regular season in Europe by Cooks with 0 seconds. That was the difference between K-Dop finishing #1 and getting golden striker and Cooks here. So K-Dop, he really does deserve this for Europe. So congratulations, K-Dop. You did it, man.
He does it there. Europe MVP in the books. We have one more to talk about here from Oceania. We don't have any footage of this guy playing, but we talked about him earlier. Drippe from Alpha Sydney, the #1 seed, the team everybody's talking about. When we talked to Yummy Cheese Man, when he came on the show and was talking to us about the OCE scene, it was Alpha Sydney that is the team that he's putting the most faith behind to possibly take the wins off of the North American and European teams here at the Worlds.
Yeah, he said there was a bunch of, it was very close, obviously in OC. Soma was another player you mentioned, and Express. We saw Express finishing #1 in assists, very tight. But Drippe, massive goals per game, really just contributing to the success of his team, scoring the most out of anyone else and locking up his team a top 4 spot. And they'll have their regional champions coming up May 21st, I believe. But Drippe coming up big for his team, deserving this MVP award.
Now we got 2 more awards that we have not awarded today. We have obviously the MVP of the championships, which we can't award yet, and also the DFH Community Award, which will be awarded at the LAN at Worlds. So be definitely tuning in for that if you want to see who wins that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be setting the stage for the playoffs for North America and for Europe. Who's in, who's out, we'll talk all about it. It'll be great. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.